There is chaos surrounding me currently. I started packing and still have a ways to go. And whatever, it's complicated. I'll talk more about that later. Another time, perhaps. This video is going to be me talking about some spiritual thoughts or insights or view that I've come to recently. And I wanted to mention this because I know that my last video, which I posted like last night or this morning or something, was so drawn out. It took me a while to kind of get going, especially on the pick one. And the prep for that reading was a lot. Oh, actually, I should put some timestamps in. Let me actually pause you right now and put some timestamps in. Right after I say this. YouTube has this awesome feature, which is that you can go to the settings wheel on any video. Not on every video, because movies sometimes have it disabled, I noticed. But I use it even on movies sometimes, where I go to the speed option under the settings. And you can speed up the video and watch it in double time, or times 2, or there are increments under that as well. So depending on who's doing the speaking and how much they articulate, or how slow they are actually speaking, you choose how fast you want to listen to it. And I love that feature. I absolutely love that feature. So, when you're not in the mood to take your time and have a casual listen, and you just want someone to get to the point, times 2. Speed it up here. One thing I've noticed is that if you're doing something like this, watching a reading, you have to remember that if you speed up my voice and I'm speaking very directly, it's going to sound a lot more rude in the delivery just because you've sped up, because there's a lot of information in the nuance, in the pauses, and the giving you time to integrate what I've said, in the saying it a few different ways thing that I do sometimes. That's all for a purpose, in kind of packaging the energy in a bit more digestible way. But sometimes I totally get that you just want someone to get to the point. So I just wanted to share that, in case you didn't know. Now let me just go through a couple timestamps in the video that I just put up last, and then I'll be right back to talk about something else that I find exciting. Timestamps are in. Yay. Okay. I did hesitate to kind of keep that reading up just because it did get so drawn out through the intro and then the first reading. But there were such good important things in the second and third reading, especially, that weren't so drawn out and that were more to the point, that I knew I had to keep it in, and then I just had to deal with my discomfort about the presentation on the first ones. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm not perfect. It's just what it is. I'm just a human. All right, so I've had this little sign around in my site now for a week or two, and it's because, okay, so what does that say? 3 p.m. 10/12/24. That was the date at 3 p.m. Oh, I dated and timed it. And that's, I think, because I just wanted to maybe document and have the ability to look at the chart for when this download came to me. And this download came to me when I was, okay, oh gosh, I guess I'm speaking about this. I didn't think I was going to speak about this topic that I'm about to brush over as lightly as I possibly can, but okay. So I have this I'm going to word it like this. I've been dealing with this like soul connection, right? And it's just like a spiritual teacher that is incarnated, they're having their own life. I've brushed over and mentioned them before in some of my readings. It's not so important for me to talk about them. In fact, I've been, having such success with kind of putting that to bed just because I I felt like it was starting to take from me more than give. And what it had to give was, over the years, just the reflection that I got of myself in interacting with that person, which was very sparse. And a lot of the reflection was done in retrospect, but it was still very valuable. It's like the interactions and experiences I had with this person were so stuck in my psyche and consciousness that I could revisit them to learn from them, even years later. And I continued to do that for a long time. And I really came to a point where I was like, there were so many points, to be honest, where I tried to put it down and just say, I don't want to have to reflect on the past in order to grow right now. Like, it feels like this person isn't in my life. Why do I have to keep remembering, because like it would come up as a memory that would kind of just like flash for me and be like, yeah, pay attention to this, pay attention to this. And I know this is how I heal. So I just did it, it's like, what else am I going to do? Ignore it? Like it's not something I could ignore. So over the years, it's been the luscious fruits of many a laborious healings for myself. And for that, I really, really, really appreciate it. But I was, again, to the point where I was like, all right, I need to put this down again because like I want to just like pay attention to some life stuff, and I don't want to be sucked into that so much because, as you know, a while back I made the decision to not just be on this one track of totally doing shadow work all the time, that I was ready to kind of grow into a so-called new life, new kind of ways of being and doing with what I had learned, and then like this more purified or more clear slate of who I am, like, because what I was doing was clearing like ancestral inheritance, my backlogged, unprocessed karmic patterns that came through my ancestry and that were seeded into me through earlier life, and that, you know, when the time came, which had been more recent years, when I was able to, I was brought through the process of having experiences that would remind me and activate me in all the ways that I needed to heal from that ancestry. It's a great plan when you're looking at it from a soul level. It's a hard process when you're looking at it from a human level, but definitely not the most hard process. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it was a great plan. Now that I'm on the other side of it, it's a very good plan now that I'm on the other side of it, because I can't think of anything else that would have made me do what I've done. It it kept my attention when it needed to. It let me go when I needed it to. But there was this one thing that kept popping back up, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And I was like, I'm trying to put this down, but it won't quite go. So that means there's something else for me to learn in this, right? So I start asking my cards, like tell me what is it? What is it that I'm missing here? What do I not understand? And it would confirm for me that, yeah, there's something missing. There's something I haven't understood yet. And it's like, yeah, I know that. That's why I can't put it down. So what is it? And my cards, I was using the tea leaf cards, and I kept getting that little card that says to accept valid criticism. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Now I can remember a time that I went to this person and said, hey, so I've looked at the charts and I'm pretty sure you can see very deeply into me. judging by the astrological placements, I knew that was true. And I know, that oftentimes we can see into others more clearly than we can see ourselves, right? And this is years back, so I wasn't where I am now by any means. And I thought, well, if he can see some stuff about me that I need to work on, I want to know about it, right? So I go to him and I'm like, hey, from what I can see, you could probably see very deeply into me. And so I do feel a little intimidated by you. So I was just wondering, like, will you just tell me, like, what do you see? And he said, he started walking away from me because he was doing something, but he wasn't walking so far that I couldn't hear him talk still. And he kind of looked back a little bit as he said, well, no, I can't do that because I don't care. And it caught me off guard, so it made me laugh. And he laughed too a little bit, maybe smiled or chuckled a little bit. So I don't know. He was probably just telling me the truth. Like, that's the impression I have of him. And I think that's why his medicine was good medicine for me to be able to heal the ancestry, because the ancestry is of being brought up in households where the children are emotionally neglected. When like the care is lacking as far as like literal emotional care or care to understand or know someone. So it's like he played the perfect role, right? Like that's something my father might have said, maybe, right? I don't know, because I never asked my father anything like that. The one question I remember asking my father, which he did answer, and I'll tell you what he answered, which is interesting, but I asked him what the biggest number is. And he told me that the biggest number is infinity. So I thought it's interesting also that with this soul connection, that we also had a conversation about infinity one time, because he was referring to crystals that I gave him as infinity stones. Now, since then, I've realized that might be from a movie, but I didn't know because I didn't watch those kind of movies back then. I still haven't watched those movies. I've just heard it referenced in reference to a movie now, Infinity Stones. So now I'm thinking that's where he was getting it from or referencing. But at the time, I asked him, why do you call them Infinity Stones? He didn't answer me. And I remember just telling him, like, the reason I was asking was because infinity is a very powerful concept. And I was talking spiritually. And I showed him how connecting the energy through the infinity symbol feels. And like I went on each of our chakras and like traced the infinity symbol. And then when I got to the sacral chakra, I couldn't finish it because I just felt inappropriate. Like I didn't want to like connect our sacral chakras. Like this, just, wouldn't have been appropriate. So anyways, so I just did the upper chakras. And so nothing interesting. Oh, interesting when I say that. So I didn't go sacral and root. I didn't ground anything. So interesting. But anyway, so he didn't tell me anything when I asked for him to reveal me my own shadows, that he might see. And here the cards were saying that there was a criticism that was constructive, that I should take note of, that he said. And, this, to be honest, had come up maybe like a year or two ago, too. A year or two prior to me even trying to ask the cards for the specific last thing. They had given me that card before when I was asking about the topic of this soul connection. But I could just never come up with or remember a criticism. I can't remember him criticizing me to my face. I mean, I think it's probably likely that he talked shit behind my back, kind of thing. I don't know for sure. Or maybe it was present when someone else did. I'm not sure exactly, but I just got that vibe at some point. And I'm just reading energy, right? So I don't know exactly all the time what I'm reading. And sometimes I have to take context clues, and sometimes I have to put it on the shelf and go, maybe there'll be more on that later to put it into the picture, just a piece of the puzzle. Or maybe it was a timeline that needed to be healed, and once I heal it, it's not relevant anymore, whatever. So anyways, finally this time when I asked, I thought of the time that so I was doing readings, and he knew it. And he declared that he hated false prophets. Something like that. That might not be the exact words. But he said it within earshot of me on purpose, I believe. And I don't know what he thought I would do or say, but I was really interested. I was like, oh, let's talk about this. I was very confident in what I was doing when I was giving readings. I mean, especially since I wasn't giving prophecies, wasn't predicting anything. I was reading people's energy, current time, current energy, or something from the past that references what they're going through in the future. Those are my readings. If you've watched my channel, you know that most of my readings are not giving predictions. They're giving reading of the energy and maybe the origin. So I'm more like an inward kind of giving you back your power, not trying to take over your power, making sure you know you're sovereign kind of person in general. So like I wasn't triggered at all by his criticism of what I was doing. And it did seem like he was trying to insinuate that I was doing something inappropriate by giving readings and referring to me as a false prophet, although not quite directly. And then something happened where we didn't actually get to have that conversation. I think someone interrupted us or something. And but that popped in my head, and I was like, oh, false prophet, okay. I'm like, huh. I'm like, all right, well, what's that? What's that? And then just the pieces started kind of unfolding as a download in my consciousness. Like I have claircognizance, so sometimes I just get knowings, and that's how it happened on this. It was like I finally cleared enough whatever's in me to have this download unfold and make sense. Who knows how long it had been in my consciousness, unfolded, not opened. But what I realized was, oh, okay, here's what it is. Not necessarily that I don't even know what his judgment, if it was a judgment, was or was not. I don't even know what he thought or didn't think. But I still took it as a reflection. I still said, okay, well, what can I find in me that is a false prophet? And I saw it right in that moment. And I was like, oh. I was flashed to a bunch of times when I was talking to spirit about me. This was never happening when I was reading other people. This was always between me and spirit. And in fact, I've had people try to do predictive love readings with me, and I won't even do it. I just say, well, we can pull some cards and see what it says, but I won't be able to give you any definitive answers. That's not my specialty. And I knew that wasn't my specialty because I had already tried it for me with spirit, give me some answers about my love life or whatever. So anyway, what I realized my false prophet tendency was that for myself, when I was interpreting information or experiences or synchronicities or cards that I was given or whatever from spirit, that I heavily filled, and this is starting about 8 years ago, heavily filled in the blanks with what I preferred to be the truth. Meaning, Spirit's giving me a piece of information, and I'm filling in the blanks. And yeah, of course, that's how you read. That's what you've got to do, right? But I was like so heavily biased on my own reality, like for myself, and so unwilling to see it until that point where I'd cleared enough of my programming, enough of my conditions on everything, to be like, oh, I see now that I just filled in so many blanks along the way that I assumed that running into somebody and, having our special spots in the woods half a mile apart, living in the same town for years, and I don't know, just like, passing them on the road a bunch, and just like having all these little synchronous moments. I just assumed that meant this was my happily ever after, right? This is my last relationship. I assume, and being brought to the concept of the twin flame journey, and then having it resonate so deeply within my body, and then thinking, oh, well, then he must be my twin flame. I just assumed a lot, when if I could have held back my expectations and my assumptions and my attachment to outcomes, I would have progressed so much further and smoother on my spiritual journey than I have. And when I was realizing that, I was just like, wow, yeah. And and it was like, yes, I was being humbled, so humbled, but at the same time, I was feeling so relieved, because at the same time I was being humbled, the relief was that I can trust spirit. I can trust myself now that I understand this. And it all makes sense now. Every single thing that I couldn't make sense out of now makes sense. I am not confused anymore. Now I see that what I had done was assume some things. I made an ass out of myself with spirit. Thankfully, spirit knew I would do it all along. Doesn't mind that I did. I forgive myself. We're moving on from it. But it felt like it took so long to get to that point. And also at the same time is, I don't think I could have gotten to that point and still been motivated to go on, because my false assumptions are what perpetuated me. I felt passionate about what I wanted, right? And if I didn't think that I was gonna get it out of the work I was doing, I probably wouldn't have done that work. I thought I was working for that thing I wanted and being reassured that it was gonna work out. And then when it didn't work out, I was left going, what the hell is this? How could you be wrong? Why did you make me do this? And like, in retrospect, it's like, oh, well, the same conclusion I had to come up with was that at least I got, all this healing out of it. At least I used these reflections to heal myself. And, and it's like, well, I concluded that thinking that even if something went wrong, at least I got that healing. But in retrospect, what it actually is you got the healing you need to become the version of yourself that would allow the kind of love that you actually want. It was a training ground for you, so to speak. It was something you needed to scrape off all the thick scars tissue in order to get raw again and get down into that programming that you're not aware of yet, and that would definitely keep you from having what you actually desire and prefer to experience. And right then I heard this sentence: the reason why is always your own. The reason why is always your own. I believe it was a feminine voice that, I have only one other time heard, like, I can't say one other time had clear audience, because one time I was in a intuition class, and we were doing this thing where the teacher would name a person from their own lives that we didn't know, and we had to tell the teacher what we intuited about that person. And I said, I hear drums. I just, I don't, I didn't know that I could hear drums, but that's what I, typed in the chat because it was an online class. And he said, oh, interesting. Yeah, this guy's been a drummer his whole life or whatever, his whole adult life or, whatever. So that was an indication to me like, oh, I have some clairaudience stuff, but it was not a major thing in my life. Like I wasn't using it. The only other time was I had a voice come to me one time and ask me if I wanted to see something, to which I answered without skipping a beat, yes, to which it popped me out of my body and let me see everything in the room, including my own body, in sepia tones, which was awe-inspiring. And then I popped right back in my body and, documented the experience in my journal and blah, blah, blah. So, besides all that, I don't usually get clairaudience, but this did feel like it could have even been my own voice, my own highest self voice, because it didn't feel that much different from my own voice. But it said, the reason why is always your own. And what it means is the reason why I interpret this way is my own. The reason why I'll tell this story that way is my own. When I conclude a reason why this is happening, that reason is my own reason. It's my story. And I started applying this to everything in my life for a few minutes thereafter the download came, and I was just like thinking like, okay. And then I was looking at other people as well. I was like, okay, so when I watch a reader and they're looking at these cards and they're saying like, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening and this is why, I was thinking that reason is their own. And then, oh, that made sense to me, right? Because lots of times I'll be watching a reader and I'll just be like seeing their biases come through the reading. And in the beginning, it used to annoy me a little bit. And then I found acceptance for it. So I would still be able to watch and I would just note like, okay, that's a bias. But putting it in these terms, like the reason why is always their own. And then I was just like, okay, that fits there. And then like I applied it someplace else and looked, okay, does it fit here? Does it fit here? And everywhere I looked, it was true. The reason why is always your own. Now, I feel like this is useful in a lot of ways. But I just wanted to share it because I had it here. Interpreting spirit messages or any data is my notes on the back. Yeah. Oh, so that means it's when I'm interpreting spirit messages or any data, the reason why is always my own. The reason I give to the conclusions I make, the reason I give for the story I'm telling, the reason I give in the story I'm telling. It's like, that if I'm telling a story about, that guy went and he got out of his car and then he hit this guy because this guy was puffing up his chest and acting like he was going to hit him. So that's like, you see how I'm like giving a reason why this guy hit that guy. And I'm saying it's because he puffed up his chest and did whatever. But that is actually my reason that I assigned to that scenario that I observed. You know? Because what it was pointing out to me is that my biases were not cleared. That whatever I was observing, I was still observing with my own biases. And that what that brought me to was like, I can remove those. And I might want to do that now. And it's like not wrong that I've had them all this time. That is the experience I was meant to have, right? The experience of looking through my own biases, which are there because of my own experiences and the stories I've told and the life I've lived and the fears I've had and all that. And it's like, okay, well, what is it like when I don't look through them? Well, it's more of a laid back, like, no, it's not a, okay, so when I'm assigning a reason to something, it's very masculine, right? It's masculine energy. It's take charge energy. It's this is how it's going to be. It's controlling. Whereas if I want to get past those biases and start seeing things like intuitively, like if I wanted to read that disagreement situation between those two gentlemen intuitively instead of psychologically, maybe, or presumptuously, then I'm going to have to pull back into myself, right? And then I'm going to have to be in that receptive state of the feminine energy so that the information can impress upon me. And so slowing down is one way, one step, I should say, in the process of removing these biases, which is valid criticism, right? Isn't it? It's valid criticism. I mean, that spiritual connection, lots and lots of work I did on myself throughout it, but then, bringing me to this beautiful, like, realization of like, oh, and you can clear that lens too. So good. Okay, so I slow down, right? And then I kind of pull myself back and I listen and I receive, right? And in order to do that, I need to be in that state of I don't know. I don't know. Because if I don't know, then the limitless possibilities that exist can impress upon me. And that's where something that I don't presume is going to come in, right? And I think it was pretty easy for me to do that with a stranger, doing a reading for a stranger that I've never known before. In fact, it's kind of interesting because I preferred doing readings for people I didn't know. Preferred it. And I preferred them not to tell me anything about their lives. I preferred to do a cold reading on someone I had no idea who they were. And there are times when I thought, am I just relying on that element of surprise too much in this reading, right? Like, I don't want you to tell me anything because I want to show you that I can tell you, And I thought, is this just an egoic thing? Would we have more productive readings if we could talk a little bit and they could narrow in on what they want me to tell them about, you know? But I was too much in my, I don't know, it wasn't not working, but I would say that I was too much in my masculine energy, but I wasn't. I've said before that I believe I can do intuitive readings with my masculine energy. So maybe I was using masculine energy to do those. It's possible. Um, all right, but I'm just realizing this as a possibility. I'm going, ooh. Because I was going to compare that to when I was reading myself, where I was definitely more invested in knowing and finding and detecting, right? And it was more difficult to sit back because I was invested in the outcome and I did have a preference, And with the strangers, I didn't so much. I didn't have people telling me no or saying it was a bad reading. Like I had quite the opposite. I wouldn't have ever even spent time doing readings if it wasn't that the feedback I was getting had well reassured me that I was doing justice to the position. So anyway, these biases were mostly coming in on my own readings on myself, which I had acknowledged over the years, that it was difficult for me to read myself, but I was still willing to try. And now what I'm seeing is that it will behoove me to drop that essence of the false prophet. um, and not just because I can be so wrong sometimes, not just because of that, but also because it blocks being expectant of that blocks me from what my highest self has planned for me. And I can only tap into that if I'm open to the limitless possibilities that exist, right? And if I'm in a masculine mindset and way of being and thinking and wanting and preferring and expecting and detecting, then I'm really boxed in, and there's no place for that other thing that I haven't even dreamed up because it's bigger and better and more worthwhile, that I don't even know about. That thing doesn't have any room to come in. So just like the stories can block us, the reason can block us, you know? Finding out your why, I found out, is really, really important sometimes, or helpful sometimes, I should say. All right. So that's that. I don't know if I've made a good point that's valuable for you, hopefully. I'm going to now refer to my journal because I took some notes recently when I was watching a video. It was Mateus Di Stefano and Robert Miller Grant, having a conversation. Great conversation, because I like that they talked about unconditional love. And the way their conversation went was allowing me to frame it in such a more freeing way than I had been experiencing it. I was definitely already, inclined to go there, right? But this way that they presented it was just a reframe that made it easier, I think. So I thought I'd share some of my notes. All right, because so here's something about it. With this soul connection, one of the things that I've really been studying is unrequited love. And this unconditional love, concept that they touched on and the way they spoke about it, I was able to apply it to my unrequited love situation, and it was very, very freeing. Very freeing. I don't know if that's going to come out in my notes here. Let's see. I put this in my own words, like based on what they said. So it's not exactly what they said. It's just like what I extracted from it to apply to my situations in my life. I wrote, looking at things in terms of what conditions I put on love, seeing where I am being shown my condition on love. If I see myself needing to feel important to someone, I put that condition on love, meaning I don't feel loved until I feel important to someone. That would be a condition that I put on love. That is not unconditional love. Now, referencing their conversation, when he presented this topic, he wasn't saying that it's not okay to have conditions. He was pointing out the fact that we all have conditions, that that's part of being here on earth in this duality. And then the other gentleman, when he weighed in on it, he tied it to each of these conditions can correlate to a chakra. And so I thought that was very helpful, because then I realized, okay, so it's not just conditions on love. It's conditions on feeling safe. It's conditions on being creative. It's conditions on being sexual. It's conditions on using your will, and so I have some notes here on that too. But I was realizing that if I put conditions on love, it's in the root. It's in the root chakra that condition is residing. And the condition would be equal to the karmic pattern, maybe the inherited karmic pattern that I'm living out, the belief that I have about what needs to happen, what it needs to look like, the reasons that I've given it are what I've used to justify my condition, right? So you see this happening a lot in our culture. Hopefully I don't have to elaborate on that and you can see it very clearly like I can. If I have to elaborate, just tell me and ask a question and I'll share my thoughts. Okay. It's not wrong. The heart knows a bigger picture, which is love exists even when the other does not act like I am important. Yeah, love still exists even when that condition is not met. It's both. Both things are true. Everything that's true, the opposite is also true. Also, I can give love to the part of me that has this condition, right? So if there's a part of me in my root chakra that needs to know that I'm important in order to feel loved or lovable, I can make sure that I give myself that importance. So I actually, after realizing this, started this inner mantra that just repeated to myself several times on those first few days. I am important to me. I am important to me. Right after I shifted that within myself, that condition, and switched on to I am important to me, an opportunity came, phone call, an opportunity that I lined up with just through shifting my energy in that way. Of instead of needing someone else to think I was important, that I knew I was important. Because I believed it. When I stated it, I had enough evidence in my actions for a long period of time that it was easy for me to believe that I am important to myself. It was just like I was sharing that information with myself because I guess myself didn't know it yet, that I am important to myself, you know? It's appropriate to see the condition you associate with feeling safe. Okay, wait. It's apparent. It's appropriate. It's appropriate to see the condition. Okay, I don't know what I wrote here. It's appropriate. Okay, that's all I was saying. It's appropriate to see the condition that I associate with feeling safe. What are the conditions that I need in order to feel safe? I need shelter. I need money. I need food. I need water. These are the things that make me feel safe. But also, I've had the experience that, you know, those conditions weren't met and I was still safe. I've had the experience of having all of those conditions not met and yet I was safe. So there's a bigger picture view from my heart, from my heart's view. It's like, okay, well, if you skip a meal, you're actually still safe, right? Remember how you're still safe? Oh yeah, remember that time you were homeless and you're still alive and nothing bad happened to you besides, some tears and some fear. You are safe. It's like that. It's like realizing the bigger picture than the condition on each of these things. And then it's appropriate to see the condition that I may have on being turned on, right? I'll only activate my sexual energy if these conditions are met. Seems very appropriate for that, right? Because there are some conditions that you would find inappropriate for sexual energy to be utilized, right? So here we are looking at how conditions are actually really important sometimes, you know? And looking at any conditions that I have on taking action. What are the conditions that I have on taking action? All right, say the action is to clean, to finish packing. What are the conditions? The condition would be like that I have time, that I have the energy, things like that. It's like, all right, well, sometimes, as you all probably know as well, sometimes you're tired, but you got to do it anyway, right? Sometimes. I wouldn't do that every time, because you got to be nice to your body. Rest is important. But you know what I'm saying. Condition with speaking. How many of us as children were told, don't speak unless you're spoken to? How many of us got a slap on the wrist when we spoke out of line? How many of us got humiliated when our own words were twisted and we were, in contact or conversation with someone who was determined to misunderstand us? How many times did one of us speak and it just didn't matter and no one listened or cared, and you just lost the will or the drive to want to speak? Like, what conditions do you have on speaking, on expressing yourself, on singing? I'll only sing when I'm in the car alone. That could be a condition you put on expressing. And it's like, there is love there. Like, you could accept that condition also doesn't need to be met in order for you to sing, right? It's like the little truth and the big truth. The little truth is that you have this condition, but the big truth is that's not really true, is it? The third eye chakra may hold like a conditions on seeing the ethers. Personally, this is something that I think is interesting because I definitely put conditions on what I'm allowing myself to see in the ethers. I'm in a human body. I'm having a human experience. There's a lot of practical, mundane things here, and I like it that way. I don't particularly, I don't take psychedelics or anything. I don't particularly want to interact with other dimensional entities, though I may change my mind on that. But do I have any conditions on that? Well, to be honest, I do. I do have a condition on that, and that is that years ago, I realized that I could do mediumship, and I didn't pursue it. And I actually put a closed sign on in the ethers. Like if a spirit were to come and say, "Oh, here's a medium," I could get a message through them. There's a closed sign that they would see, and it's like, no, closed for that kind of business, right? I have a condition on that, and the condition is that I'm closed on that. At least at this time, I haven't chosen to pursue it. And there are reasons for that, right? There are more conditions. And then in the crown chakra, conditions on your connection to spirit. I'll only connect to spirit when nobody knows. I have this secret altar or a secret religion or whatever it is, but your conditions could have to do with your crown chakra and your connection to spirit. And then the heart, what are your conditions on feeling love? And then open this one to see the unconditionality of the others. Because the heart is like the portal to the limitless possibilities that exist. So the limitless possibilities that exist include the opposite of the condition that you have. Both things are true. Okay, then I have notes here on unrequited love. I wrote back to basics here. Then I wrote putting conditions on what we love how it has to think, act, and look when it reflects back to us. Yeah, unrequited love is just when we say, if I'm going to feel loved or if I'm going to love that thing, it has to think, act, or look, like what I prefer. And do you see how it can cut you off from so many things, so many possibilities? And those conditions are designated by your ego. Your ego's job is to keep you safe from pain. So building something on the premise of fear, and fear of being hurt, or fear of being in pain, or humiliated, or ostracized, or whatever it may be, but building on fear as part of the foundation of what you're building is always going to get you the result that you could imagine would come with building with fear as part of your building blocks. It's not love, and it can crumble. So unrequited love can be like, I'm just not even going to build it. I'm just not even going to build it because I know this fear in this equation. I know that I don't like that. I know that it doesn't look like I want. I know it doesn't act like I want, so I'm not going to build it. And in that case, the fear could be blocking you from building something that might be built on actual love, love without conditions, unconditional love, because you put the condition on even letting it be possible. I feel like I just talked myself in a circle, so let's just move on. I have a feeling. Oh, okay. And then I realized, in applying these things to some examples in my life that I've had recently, I realized that I had a condition on feeling love when something doesn't go my way. On feeling loved, I should say. Yeah, I had a condition on feeling love when something doesn't go my way. So I was able to bring that to my own attention and realize, okay, love does exist there, even though it didn't go my way. My condition on love is revealed when I refuse to see love, meaning acceptance. If it can't change my value or my lovability when I don't get my way. My solar plexus refused to feel love when told no. My solar plexus had a condition on feeling loved. If I was told no, didn't go my way, then I did not feel loved. Unrequited love. The refusal to feel love when you are told no. Unrequited love. That's the experience of unrequited love. You put the condition on yourself of unrequited love. It didn't pan out exactly how I wanted. Unrequited love. I have a condition and I don't feel loved unless it goes my way, unless I'm told yes, unless it happens like this. I don't feel loved. Therefore, this is an unrequited love situation. Yeah, when I was realizing this, I was like, whoa, wow, woo. There was a video out there when I've said, like, unrequited love doesn't exist. Which, what this is saying is it exists. It's just that it's within you. The unrequited love is within you. For me, right? In this case. Conditions on love happen through the chakras. That heart can see a bigger picture. Even when I make a mistake, I don't have to put conditions on whether I am lovable, wrong or right. I'm just learning what I prefer. Right. So I think Bashar actually commented or talked about this in response to a question someone had about their relationship and how it didn't work out. And Bashar was saying, like, well, you didn't actually get betrayed because what you were shown was what you prefer. And that's a valuable piece of information. And so I was just adding that in here and kind of saying, like, yeah, I'm just learning what I prefer. Even when I make a mistake, it's like, oh, well, I don't have to feel shame or bad or, whatever. What I'm learning is what I prefer. What I'm learning is what doesn't work, so I can try something that might work. It's like, I feel like this is what the Hermetic principles are referring to when they say the law of the pendulum. I forget which law it is. But basically it talks about how you can only go as high as you've been low, right? And the pendulum is always swinging, right? Of the energy. The energy is always swinging. And and it, and you can ride the high side of it. Meaning you won't go into the dip if you ride the high side of it. And I think that's what this is saying. Like, instead of going, oh, poor me, I have suffered from this mistake or betrayal or not going my way. Oh, poor me. Oh, okay, let's try again, right? Instead of all that, you go, oh, I've learned what I prefer. You're not swinging down into that mopey place or those lower density kind of ways to feel. You're just like, you've already got the structure to frame it as what it actually can be, because the reason is always your own. So that experience revealed to me what I prefer. Don't want to feel bad about that. I like knowing myself. Okay, let's see what else here. It says, condition on feeling someone is my equal. Oh, I thought this was a really good one to consider. What are the conditions I put on feeling someone is my equal? Because, yeah, like, intellectually, logically, I feel like everyone's my equal, right? But are there conditions in there that make me think, oh, not my equal? you know, like when someone can't hold a conversation with me, there's definitely a part of me that would think that's not my equal. It's not necessarily true, is it? That's a condition that I put. That is just my reason. It's not necessarily true. And why would I want to frame people like they're not my equal if they don't have a conversation with me? That's ridiculous, right? That was in my solar plexus, a condition in my solar plexus. And I think that's probably very likely an ancestral inheritance as well, right? Because we, some of us have descended from kings and queens and like that high society, high-minded type of relating. And they definitely held a hierarchy and they placed people, in these different categories and put themselves in upper categories, so to speak, My condition on seeing others as suffering, losers, criminals, lowlife. These are things that I don't actually subscribe to. I haven't, like, I don't have any examples written here because I couldn't think of any for these, but an earlier version of me, sure, for sure, I had conditions like those that were those type of things. My conditions on seeing someone as my true love. Oh. And then I put LOL, low standards for that in past. Yeah, I was realizing that my standard for considering someone my true love, those conditions, they were very low standards. It took very little for me to think someone was my true love. And I was very amused to realize that my conditions were actually that, oh, you didn't have to do much for me to commit myself to you fully and be so loyal that I'll only hurt myself. Okay. I want to learn the opposite of what I judge in the other. Oh, this was something that Robert Miller Grant, I'm not sure if that's exactly his name. One of those names is in the middle, either Grant or Miller. Anyway, he talked about this. He pointed this out. And of course, this goes along with everything that I talk about in all my videos. But I liked hearing it, outside of myself, of course, and also find it true and valid. But I liked how simple he put it in this sentence. I want to learn the opposite of what I judge in the other. So whatever I judge in the other, I always say, like, use it as a mirror, look for it in yourself. And he's just saying, it's so simple as to say, like, that's what I want to learn in life. So if I judge someone who for being a victim, it's like, oh, you're a victim, and I judge that in them, then it's telling me that what I want to learn in life is how to be strong, how to be responsible for myself, how to be sovereign. You know what I mean? So it shows you, again, what you prefer. So you don't even have to shame yourself and blame yourself for having had the judgment. You just slip right out of it and let the energy float you back up to that top place where you're reframing it again. Oh, now I know what I prefer. I prefer that I just learn how to be strong. And I don't have to reflect off someone who I judge in order to know that about myself now. When I accept it, I have learned it, right? So when I'm up here on this lipped edge, because I know what I prefer now for myself to be strong, when I look at somebody who is naming themselves as a victim or playing the victim, I don't judge it anymore. I'm accepting it. I'm like, oh, they're playing that game, that victim game. It's very real to them. I have compassion for that. I'm not silly enough to think that I know better for them than they do. I don't think that they should be somewhere that I prefer them to be rather than where they are. I know that I got the valuable thing I needed, which was when I was judging that, I found out that I really actually meant to learn how to be strong in this life. So that's my focus. That's where I want to put my energy. Unrequited love. I judged his closed heart as wrong, right? When someone didn't return my love, I thought, well, there's something wrong with his heart. He's got a closed heart. He can't see me. And when I accept it, I learn that, oh, instead of judging my perception of his closed heart, what I realized is I actually wanted to learn how to have an open heart in this life. And with an open heart, you do not judge someone's closed heart at all. It doesn't even come into it. I judged her victim stance as wrong. When I accept it, I learn, and then I had a question mark, and I put health. And that was because the person I was referring to in my recollection was someone who was a victim in their health. And so I wanted to learn health in my life here, which I am learning. I'm in the process of learning, right? And I don't need to project my discomfort with my perceived ill health onto someone else's. I own it as, oh, I'm learning my own health. That's what I wanted to do here. My fear of things not going my way, meaning it's tied to my feeling of not being safe. shows a condition in my root of having things go my way in order to feel safe. Yeah, it's a control tactic that we sometimes end up using. I feel safe if I control the dynamics of this, if I know all the factors, if I know what's going to happen. That's why we stay in comfort zones, right? I can't see every possibility. That's the truth. I actually can't see every possibility. So there may be a better one for me that I can't even see. If I'm controlling every factor, I'm missing out on opportunities that could be way better for me. So it would not be going my way. I wouldn't even know it, right? Because I'm too busy keeping myself stuck in the box that I've created to give myself the illusion of safety. Because my ego said that would be a good idea to do. I can only take action where, I don't know what I wrote here. Oh, I can only take action where appropriate, right? My inner urge, my curiosity will lead me to take certain actions. My intuition will give me information that will help me to decide which actions to take. And the rest must be trusted. The rest must be faith. Because trust or in faith, or to having faith, leaves the opening for the limitless possibilities that exist. So it's like, sure, you can ask for what you want, but ask for this or something better, or ask for this if it's in the highest good of all. I want what's in my highest good and the highest good of all. That's what I want. So it might be like, oh yeah, I kind of want to own this, and this property, but I want it in the highest good of myself and all, right? It's like, well, maybe Spirit knows that there's going to be an earthquake on that property, on the island that you were just thinking that you'd wanted to own, and Spirit's not going to give that to you because it's not in your highest good. And it's like, don't you want to allow for the divine orchestration and have some faith for things to come together in the highest good of all? Isn't that something that makes sense and is wise to have in the equation when we are navigating and orchestrating and creating our lives and defining what our reasons are? Can we remain open enough to know that the real reason, might not be something that we know about? What came to mind right then is, I don't know, I've seen a meme, something to the effect of sometimes people are removed from your life because God heard the conversations that you weren't present for. And it's like, instead of railing against that and trying to win people over and fighting for your spot back in a friend group that, you know, that you've been removed from, or were removed from you, maybe you just have faith that it's happening in the highest good of all, you know? And having faith comes through removing the conditions that you have in your heart on trusting and on feeling that wholeness and that love of yourself, life, the universe, of humanity, of all living things, of just like all of it. Just feeling that connectedness, which apparently is what synchronicity is, right? So synchronicity doesn't necessarily mean that like I'm on the path with my one true love. It means that I am in a space where I recognize that everything's connected and that the decisions I make do matter. And that if I'm making my decisions based on the fears and the conditions, that the results that I get will be reflective of that. And that's not a prediction. That's not a prediction. That's just an understanding of how it works, you know? All right. I'm going to close this out here. It is 7:57. 7:57. All right. You know what? I'm just going to pull. Well, now that you've already seen my little pile of laundry here, I'll show you my little elephant lamp. Don't love when everything's in disarray. I don't really know why I chose to sit here and, well, I know why I chose to sit here instead of packing and organizing more, because I just have to take a rest from the packing and organizing. You know, my body can only do so much at a time, and so here I can just kind of do stuff and not really see the whole clutter. That laundry right there was just some stuff I threw there for now, and I'll be moving it before bed. And tomorrow is laundry day. Do you know what song that's from? Do do do. The Geek in the Pink. Jason Mraz. Geek in the Pink. Alright, I guess no cards are coming out. Come on. Anything here? Oh, there we go. Results. Big payoff. Whatever you were just thinking. Whatever you were just thinking. What was I just thinking? I was just thinking orange juice. I was just thinking, man, I'm craving some orange juice, and there's no way in heck that I'm going out to get some right now. I probably have some lemon juice, so I can make myself a lemonade, which is what I will do after this. Lemon and ginger, probably. Do you ever have that? I put honey, organic lemon juice. It's like in the little lemon, you know, it's a concentrated lemon juice. And then I have these frozen nibs of ginger. They're ground up and then frozen in these little, like, it's like a pop-it pack. Like, you can pop it out into what you're cooking and stuff. I pop it out into my drink. It's delicious. Actually, I have some in there all made. I don't know, it's a week and a half old or something, though. So I have to kind of see if it's still good. It must be, right? None of those things go bad. Honey stays good forever. Lemons, why would that go bad? And ginger. Oh, there's no ginger in that one because I made it for Hazel. Oh, interesting. Well, I don't even want to show this card. I don't know why, but like, passion only. I want to say, follow your passion, and there's a big payoff. And it's much bigger than you anticipate. The payoff for following your passion right now is much bigger than you anticipate. What conditions do you have on doing it, on following your passion, on feeling your passion? You know, why is it that, okay, so something where your logical mind is like gonna get this message, right? If you wouldn't get this message if you were already doing it. You know what I mean? So there's some sort of doubt or fear blocking you from even knowing what it is. Let's see, that doubt and fear is in the solar plexus. Ask for what you want. And part of this might be defining what is important to you. Defining what is important to you. If you're feeling passionate about something and it is requiring you to ask something of someone, it's saying ask. Big payoff. Good results. I feel like I maybe a couple more cards, and there's one more deck that I might take a couple from. I had actually packed all my cards and I just took these out before I sat down here, just in case we wanted to use them. Give a gift. Give a gift. Okay. I gave 2 people flowers today. And it's sort of like giving yourself the gift of caring what your passion is and caring about what you want. I just heard caring is sharing, and it sounded very corny, but I'm saying it anyway. There it is. Sharing your passion. Your passion wants to be shared. Sometimes passion can like burn you up, if you don't give it an outlet, right? You are on your highest path. So this thing that you feel like, yeah, maybe it's that. Yeah, it's that. And it's on your highest path. This is what you're meant to be doing. You are in a safe container. You are capable of doing it. Now, in a safe container can be thought of 2 ways. Like when we're doing some healing work on ourselves, you need to be in a safe container to do it. But a safe container is also a comfort zone. So you're in an established place where you kind of know all the variables and you can count on things turning out the way that you expect them to. And this whole entire talk has kind of opened us up to the place where we're willing to at least be open to something more than that, right? So I don't think I need to repeat that to you. Be creative. And there's a lack of commitment from you on following through on this. Yeah, you haven't yet committed to following this passion of yours. So it's kind of just there for you when you're ready. Yeah, that's how I felt like saying it. I felt like being so gentle with you and not trying to push you and not trying to say that you did it wrong. It's not like that. Not like that at all. This is like a whole fun, nice thing. Like it's an adventure. I want to say it's an adventure, so treat it as such. You don't know what's going to happen. And that could be very exciting. Yeah. Could be very exciting. Okay. It's been Nice. I enjoyed expressing myself today, so thank you for being here if you've followed along. And if you have listened to me at times too, um, cool. You have a really quick brain, don't you? um, anyways, until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.